if you have a conversion rate problem for your e-commerce business, you have to watch this thing the whole way through. This is something that comes up quite a bit in my paid communities, my Ecom Blueprint and Up-Level Mastermind programs, where I help e-commerce brands scale to record revenue months, because a lot of the times the problem is misdiagnosed. So let me explain that to you. Let me teach you, what to go through, and hopefully you can come out the other end with a solution if you're having this challenge in terms of converting enough people into paying customers. So my name's Will De Bruin. If you haven't seen my videos before, I co-founded e-commerce business in 2013 with my brother. We left our corporate jobs, and that business has since gone on to do multiple seven figures per year. And I've also helped over 300 e-commerce brands hit record revenue months through my paid programs. So this is one of our magic 3 components. Okay, so when I talk about the magic 3, we talk about anything that drives sales and revenue to an e-commerce business is to do with one of 3 things, but mostly it's a combination of all 3. So the first is traffic. The second is converting that traffic. The third is lifetime value, so customer lifetime value. So we're talking about the second one here in terms of conversions, because a lot of people come in and we're putting their strategy together and they say, yep, I've got a traffic problem. That's typically one of the biggest things. But then they say, and secondary to that, I just can't get the people to convert on site. Now, what we do in this circumstance is we firstly look at the traffic sources. So, if they're running paid ads, for example, we check the structure, we make sure that everything's okay in that department, meaning that we can basically conclude that the highest intent possible people are going to site. Because if we have a conversion rate problem, we need to make sure that the right people are actually visiting, because sometimes what can happen there is, well, we don't have the right people coming, our conversion rate looks bad. So the problem is the traffic, not the conversions. So once we've actually concluded that the traffic source is reliable and the traffic coming through as reliable as they possibly can be, we then want to obviously look at the conversion rate. Now, what we do here is we look at certainly the conversion rate, and we look at, Shopify analytics, for example, where you can see a chart of visitors to add to cart, to reach checkout, to purchase. That gives us our conversion rate, and also our rates of those respective sources or points in the funnel, the customer journey. And so a lot of the time, people say they've got a bad conversion rate, yet their abandoned checkout rate is also low and their add to cart rate is also low. But when we look at those 3 things together in sequence, the overflow from one to the next, so people who actually add to cart, that reach checkout, that purchase, is actually within KPI, right? So they don't actually have a conversion problem. Yes, that is the end result, but their problem actually goes up the funnel to the add to cart. So their add to cart rate is actually low. So by knowing that this is how the system works, that there's a natural drop off, a cascade, I call it, then it's not just frantic to how do we fix the conversion rate, it's actually focused to how do we get people to add to cart? How do we increase the add to cart rate? Now, this is more common than not. And so sure, some people have abandoned checkout issues, some people have overall conversion issues, and you can apply this video to those as well. But I'm specifically talking about the add to cart, because this means that they're getting decent amount enough traffic through. The traffic is visiting the respective product pages, and they're just now not enticed to add to cart. So typically in e-commerce, we like to see a add to cart rate, and this is very, very average, obviously very generic, but an add to cart rate of say 6 to 8% or 6% plus. That will roll down to a 4 to 6% reach checkout and a 2 to 3% that actually convert. That's an average e-commerce conversion rate. So if your add to cart rate is not in that 6% plus, then yeah, you've got an add to cart rate issue, which means that this video is going to be very helpful for you. So what we firstly want to look at is everything, with fresh eyes, everything in isolation. So when someone comes into our program, we go and have a look at their site, we have a look at their respective pages, and we say, well, as a first time visitor, would I myself buy this, or what would entice me to go ahead and buy this? Now, this obviously comes into a lot of product page and conversion rate optimization. The bottom line that we have found come down to a few things. The first is clarity. Okay, so if you look at a product page as a customer or as your own business owner, if you look at your product page, assume that no one has seen anything else before that. They haven't been to your homepage. They haven't read an email. They haven't done anything. They don't know you at all. They don't know your product at all. I always like to assume it's the coldest of possible cold audience. So say they're the first time clickers on one of your ads and they've come to your product page. That's the assumption I like to make, that they know nothing and we have to earn everything for them to go and firstly add to cart, then obviously go to checkout and purchase. And so what does that mean? Clarity is going to be number 1. Clarity on what the product is, what it does, how it looks, how it feels, how applicable it is for people, how they can use it in their everyday lives. Every piece of information to do with that product itself is vital. How do you do that? You use the imagery, right? Not enough people have appropriate imagery. not enough people have videos of a demonstration of the product. And you might think this is the most simple, basic, elementary thing, but you need to equate it to people who sell in person. And I did a video the other week on selling in person versus online. These are the sorts of things we're talking about. So people can look, touch, feel. They can get the context. They can see the fit. I'm talking about clothing, for example. They want to see all that. And for us as business owners, we just take that for granted. Like, yeah, it's good quality. It's this, it's that, it's that. People don't know. In fact, they want to know so much more about the product than we actually can appreciate. So you can't have too many visuals, too many videos, too many diagrams, too many things that show out your USPs. So everything visual as possible needs to be in the imagery section. As I say, assume they've come from nothing, meaning they clicked on an ad that they saw they liked. Okay. And then they go to this product page and then they want it even more because of how validated they feel with that's appropriate for me. That's my look, for example. So visually, we need to give them everything. Obviously, picture says 1,000 words. From a word perspective, again, we need clarity as well. But that is kind of less important than showing things concisely and even visually again. So even on the product description page, we want to be able to say what the title is really clearly. We want to have some USPs, unique selling points below that in very short dot form, even visually, like as in little Canva diagrams or something like that. We want to show what the process is. You order now, we package it that day, you get delivered in 2 to 3 days, and you're a happy customer. You're dancing on the dance floor, whatever it might be, whatever your proposition actually is, that desired state of why people buy your product. Okay, so you want to say things, but say them as visually as you possibly can or as concisely as you possibly can. And we want everything to be pointing to that add to cart button. So color schemes, showing how many reviews you've got, talking about guarantees or shipping times or free shipping thresholds, everything you possibly can within that, above the fold section we talk about, right, before they go and scroll. Below that section, you want to have as much information as you possibly can, but you want to keep that concise as well because that can get really overwhelming. So a really key thing that, I was talking to a client the other day, they sell costumes, for example. They showed great visuals. And then my question was, what's actually included, right? Because that person they were showing the visuals was all dressed up. And I'm like, well, is this included? Is this included? And then I was surprised that they said, well, this is also included, this is also included. Now, they had it there in the description. It wasn't in drop-down menus. I suggest drop-down menus where people can click down and obviously put it back up because it really makes it nice and compact. It was hidden. It wasn't what's included, or it wasn't this is what you get. Speaking the language of how someone thinks. Like, think about how people type in Google when they look for solutions. Like, what are they really asking for? What are they looking for? Use that same language. And so drop-down menus, what's included, or this is what you get, or this is what's involved, then that's what's really crucial to make it really clear. And then literally just clear, bang, 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 bang. And that actually, once she made this change, that actually created more value than even the visual because it actually showed 4 to 5 things in the costume that they were getting. And it was like, wow, that actually is more impressive. I can see the value stack versus, oh yeah, what you see is what you get. To actually see in writing, in this case, what they're getting was actually really impressive to, again, stack that value. So giving as much possible information there as possible, making it concise in terms of having drop downs is best, and then have all the information there. So what's included, the shipping, returns, size fit guarantees in this case, anything you could possibly do, ingredients, if you're doing products that are consumable or whatever. So that's really, really important. And then the most important thing, well, as important as everything I've just spoken about, is around credibility and social proof. Okay, reviews. The more and more recent, the better. That has to be a constant focus that, more people have bought this. This is sold out 5 times. All these trust factors. So having social proof in terms of reviews, as visual as possible you can possibly get, is going to pay dividends. And as recent as you can possibly get is also going to pay dividends. And so, again, think about all the things that us as customers, we as customers will want to see to build trust, to make me add to cart, is what we have to put in our product pages, right? There is no stone that should be left unturned or no assumptions that should be made just because we're good people and we're trustworthy businesses and brands. That's going to be reflected to the customer on the other end. We need to earn that right. And so when it comes to our conversion rates, everything must be done on the product page. Assume they know nothing. Then they come to the ad about your business, your brand, your product, anything. Okay, so all that information must be there, and we must stack credibility, trust to earn their add to cart click, all right, which will ultimately flow onto the checkout and ultimately flow onto the conversions as well. But I want you to go to pages that you trust. I want you to go to brands that you trust or have bought from before and ask yourself why you bought. Was it this positioning of this here? Was it this clarity of this thing here? Was it this obviousness of this thing here? Was it this diagram or USP image, Canva design image over here, or the video of the show, like the environment that's relatable to you? Question yourself and put that into your product pages, because as I say, it will pay huge dividends. It will solve your conversion rate problem, right? And leave no stone unturned, make no assumptions about what people think about you or your business. We must earn that right. And so again, that's the difference between in-person and online. This is the $1,000,000 question about, well, why can't I sell online, but I can sell 9 times out of 10 in person? This is it. This is what we have to replicate in the online world, because there's so much skepticism, there's a lot of bad experiences, and there's a lot of mistrust because of bad experiences as well. So we must earn that right. So if you're looking at conversion rates, flow back the funnel. Likely your issue is going to be the add to cart rate. So work and focus and obsess on getting that add to cart rate up, and you'll see that cascade down and flow through to a reasonable conversion rate. Again, we're looking at the 6% plus to add to carts, which will flow down to checkouts, which will flow down to that 3% conversion rate on site. So look, I hope this was valuable for you. If it was, I'd love a like, love a subscribe. Creating videos like this all the time. If you want to know more about how we help ecom brands, you can click on the link below, check it out. But other than that, thanks for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.